by the way.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're on air.
Okay.
Now.
Okay. So, how familiar is the group with all ADA guidelines? After we read that really extensive,
Very long.
yeah,
Yeah.
stuff.
There was definitely a lot of things that I didn't really like know about. I mean, I feel like as like just society, like we know that like people have to have like handicap and like there has to be that spot in the middle of the two handicap spots for like wheelchair purposes and like stuff like that. But I don't know, I definitely learned like a lot about that. Like like a lot about new things.
I didn't even like think about it. I guess I've always seen it, and I didn't like you always like see it around, and you're just like, oh, okay, but you don't realize that those are like specific guidelines that like these businesses and buildings have to have to accommodate for people who have these disabilities. So, like the whole braille and the blinking fire alarm, because if it's just a noise, you can't hear it. If you're deaf. And then, yeah. So that was like all ADA guidelines. There's a lot. I don't think I definitely am. Like, that's a lot to memorize.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of it was stuff like you don't think about ever. And especially with like older buildings that they have to like renovate. Like, I thought that was crazy.
Yeah, I remember when a ramp was being built somewhere because it didn't have a ramp. And,
yeah.
Like all of BSU's buildings has ramps now, I believe. That are like have stairs, or they have elevators. You know, if they're inside. So that's like, and the elevators are wide enough. I noted that like they have to make the elevator wide enough for like people to fit in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a guideline. So like I guess that's kind of maybe how they determine the size of the elevator doors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
reading about like all the dimensions of like the wheelchair passages, like width and like the passing and like the spaces that needed to be provided is like kind of interesting because I never really put into like to perspective of like if a hallway is big enough for two wheelchairs to be passing through, or like if someone's going to be able to turn around. So it's like it was just weird to like start thinking about that now when you walk into a building.
Yeah, I'm gonna start like looking for it now. Be like, oh, is this to ADA guidelines?
Yeah, seriously. I feel like after I read this, I like have looked so much more like intense of the buildings to be like, oh, is this not there? Or like
oh, I know, I definitely feel like I have been like trying to look for stuff now and like, oh, I wonder if they have those like those flash like fire alarm things and whatever, and like what signs or like little like door opener things like for wheelchair accessible and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's so odd now that I look for it.
Yeah. Another thing I found interesting was like in one of the like sections, it was like a not required, like where elevators weren't required. And I guess I never really thought about it, but like they're not required at water slides, which like kind of makes sense. But like I never thought about it that like you've never seen an elevator at a water slide or like an escalator or something else.
On a water slide, or like even can go down a water slide. I mean, that'd be like a lot.
Another example was a wrestling ring, and like I thought that was kind of interesting because I mean like generally it's on the first floor anyways, but like there's nothing. I don't know. I thought those were weird.
There's like the exceptions, yeah.
Yeah, and like prison guard towers, which like kind of makes sense, but it's still weird. You just don't think of those things.
That one was funny to me. It was like, oh, I guess they can't be prison guard.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I guess we can move on to the next one. Oh, that was not the right one. Okay. What? How connections did you find? I think it means what between this week's reading and UDL and home modifications. What? Oh, like UDL with like these. Okay. So this is like when we're this. So this is like back to the schools. Like.
Oh, and
Like
like how they can implement these things in the schools. Is
yeah,
that what?
like, yeah, and I think like utilizing UDL like principles. You know, like how would they go about using these modifications to UDL? I think. Oh, and home modification. Okay, hang on.
That question kind of confused me. I was
When I read that, I was like, I don't know what I'm like, what that's really asking.
Especially
Well,
with that website, the at-home accommodations, I was really confused at what to.
Well, I couldn't find like the specific at-home modifications. Kind of. I mean, I saw like examples of like wheelchair and like braille and stuff like that, but I didn't like see like at home. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Do you guys find?
I don't know, but I would think like something that would be, I guess, is somewhat of an example is like, I guess, making sure that like there's like, I don't know, the family or like the builder or whatever, like make sure that there's like a ramp for the wheelchair, like not like stairs or like if there is like different levels of the house, make sure there's like a ramp or something. Like I don't know how to
yeah,
really
like that seat thing that you put on the chair, like the
Yeah.
stairs for them to be able to walk
something
it.
like that. I don't know, and then make sure like that there's like the correct like fire alarm systems for like deaf people and whatever. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. That's yeah. I don't know. I think it just means like trying to connect it to UDL principles because like if it says home modifications, how is that in a school using principles?
Yeah, that question confused me. I wasn't really sure about that one.
I don't know. Maybe it was worded different. I don't know. Let's see. I don't know. Let's just. I don't know. I don't know. Ugh. Maybe we can get more feedback because I'm just like. I'm trying to connect it back to UDL, but it's not talking about in a school. In a school, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess we can just move on to C. So like, oh yeah, like describe the 3 responsibilities of the implementation team, like at a schools, right? Yeah. So what did someone say about that?
Well, they do have to evaluate whether the tools work and continuously evaluate throughout their IEP meetings and the use of those tools.
Yeah, the resources.
And like whether the student likes it or not and is like interested in using it as part of
But they're actually going to use it.
yeah.
Like there's sometimes a lot of times where they have an IEP and they just give them an assistive technology, just to give them an assistive technology, and they don't even use it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like yeah, so it's good to have them like feel interested in it and like actually feel engaged with using it. And whether they like it or not, and if it's helpful, because if it isn't helpful, then like there's no point in having it.
Yeah, because like it's just kind of a waste of schools' resources if they're not even going to use it. Yeah, so the implementation team, I think they have to consider, yeah, whether or not they're like the student needs it, like the resources, I guess. Because what if the school doesn't have access to certain things? You know, they have to kind of get creative, right? Like they have to look at like what do we have? You know, because sometimes it depends on money. I guess sometimes with like some schools don't have as much money as others.
Yeah,
and even though, yeah.
Another thing to think about, I guess, too, is like, yeah, like sure, like the school could provide that for them while they're at the school, but like, how are they gonna like still get that help when they're at home? I don't know if we're supposed to connect that, like how like are they going to take that home with them, or like how does that translate, or does that help just stop when they leave school? I don't know. Something.
Yeah, if it's going to be able to be carried into like their everyday life rather than just their school time life.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, and that's where like how students and teachers and parents will be treated to use it comes in, because then like I think they would be able to, if it wasn't something like huge, but like say it was like a calculator or something and they could take it home, then it was like obviously important that the parents know how to use it too, so that way they're not like struggling while they're at home.
Yeah, I really like that idea of having parents like be involved and like know what their child is using and how to use it themselves, just so they can support their child to the best of their ability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's like super important to have the implementation team. Like I like how they mentioned that, because I feel like a lot of people overlook that just because they don't really think about it, but it's like super important to have in a school district. So it was nice to like point it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, because I don't know. I think it can be hard to like think of things,
Mm-hmm.
to like come up with something for that, because there's a lot of stuff and you kind of have to, I don't know, and maybe kind of like you have to guess and check maybe, because you're not gonna know 100% sure if it's gonna work.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to be a trial and error type thing.
Yeah. Hopefully not too many trials.
Yeah.
It's always the goal for that. Gosh, these are all over the place. I'm trying to. Oh, and then wait, that's our individual. 3 outcomes. I think we just said that. Yeah. Or like outcomes by evaluating. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned that.
Yeah, we tied everything kind of in at the same time.
Okay. Good. So I guess we can do our individual stuff, like the 3. Oh. Yeah. Okay. Oh, the first one's like the same thing. Like on our individual contribution, I didn't even notice that.
Oh, it was like last week?
No. It's like not like, but like it's like it's like C is like list 3 outcomes, and then individual it says list 3 outcomes. So it's like the same thing that we just talked about for individual. I just noticed that. I didn't notice that because I didn't see that when I was doing my notes for this class. I just saw the summary of the 3 types, and then like the 3 items, and then the 7th grade student, and then like the meeting for the IEP, and the role of the general education teacher. Like that's all I saw. So I guess we can just skip that first one and just do. We each share out like a summary of the 3 types. I don't know how we're each probably going to say the same thing on the summary of the 3 types, because they're like there's only 3 types. Not like we're each going to share something different, right? So like, what are the 3 types? We talked about mobile, right? I wrote that, like mobility.
Yeah.
Types of assistive tech, like wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then it talked about for people who are blind, I think, like visual, like sight assistive tech, and then hearing assistive tech. So like those are deaf. Like I can't think of anything else for them besides the blinking fire alarm. But I guess like, well, in their home they have like, if their doorbell rings, it blinks.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Seen that. Their phones, that your phone can light up when it get a text or get a call or something. So
Yeah. The LED light, yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of cool. So and then like we're each sharing out the 3 items. I don't know how we're all gonna individually share this. Do you guys know? Because a lot of, well, at least the first 2 are like, I guess we can each name our 3 items that would be considered assistive tech. But we're probably going to overlap each other.
Just all right. Usually what happens.
Yeah. So I guess someone can just go first and do C, D, and E on that. And then because, and if we build overlap, it's fine. Yeah. So, who wants to start?
If you're good, you go.
Okay. So, like, I had 3 items that can be considered assistive technology in the classroom. Sorry. 3 items that can be considered assistive tech and how they can support a student with a disability in the classroom. I said headphones. So, like, even if there's nothing in the headphones, maybe they need a noise canceling so they don't get distracted, or they could listen to the lecture again in headphones, or if they're having a text-to-speech thing, they can listen to it in their headphones. That way it's not distracting the other kids. And then I said another type could be, what was I? Another type that I wrote down. I'm just trying to think of the non-generic ones, but I wrote down the generic ones like a wheelchair and stuff. But another one for, I saw on the little module, it was like a printer. Like, did you see that portable printer? I thought that was interesting. Like, yeah. Like, they can just kind of print it from there. I thought it was helpful, I guess, if they don't have access to a printer or they want to print something smaller to like look at, I don't know, to like type and print it. That way they have access to it. That one I liked. And then this, the pencil grips came up again. I guess I could, like, yeah, like, even I have a pencil grip too. Like, I don't know, like if you can't really get a grip on it, the pencil grips help with that. So I kind of just said those, and they help because they help them complete their disability assignments and write. So a 7th grade general education language arts teacher in your class has an upcoming IEP meeting. What types of information? Gosh, sorry, I just like lost the prompt. So imagine you're a 7th grade student. I'm like all over the place. I'm sorry, it's almost spring break. I'm sorry. Okay. What types of information should you gather ahead of time to meet the student's assistive technique? I said, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the student? So like you have to kind of look at their strengths and their weaknesses, and you're like, okay, what are they good at? And like, what do they need help with? And then you kind of base that assistive tech on that. And that way you can help improve you can turn their weaknesses into strengths. And then I said, also consider the disability, because like depending on what kind of disability they have, they're going to need certain assistive technology, like certain like, you know, motor skills, pencil grips, or like deaf, you know, like text to, or like text to speech stuff, you know, for like people who are blind. And then I said, like what resources does the classroom have? You know, what resources does the classroom have? Because sometimes they don't have enough money, like I mentioned before, and they're going to need to just look at what they have to use. And then I said considerations for the other students in the class, because sometimes they don't want to give them assistive technology that's too distracting. So they really want to have it kind of be discrete assistive technology, because if they're distracting other kids with it, then it's kind of impeding from those kids' education as well. So that's what I kind of said the four the 4 kinds of information I need to gather. And then for the last one, I said general education as the role in the assistive technology implementation process. I said for teachers to that general education teachers, they're the ones who, it's their classroom, so they can kind of gear like, what things do I have and what is my classroom designed like, so that you can put this assistive technology in this class, right? Mm-hmm. Like the general education teacher is kind of the owner of the classroom, and they're in charge, and they're like, they know what their classroom looks like. They know they know what things they can put into their classroom. So I feel like they have a big help, because they can say, we can use this, and this will help here, and I can create this area in this classroom to have this and accommodate. So they're kind of like, they can give a lot of good input about what their classroom is able to do. And they also know the student pretty well. So yeah. That's Who's next? Who wants to share out with what they thought on C, D, and E?
Okay, I can Oh, sorry.
No, go. You got it.
Okay. So for things that I said that should be included in the IEP meeting, were first, I guess, well, not specifically in any order, but um, like where like the student began and like where they're at now in terms of like at this time when they're having the IEP meeting, like where they are like in terms of like their progress or like where they're at like in their schooling or whatever and like what level they're at and like I guess where they want to go and like or like where the teachers kind of want to help guide them towards to see like what technologies will best help them to progress towards those goals. Um, and I also mentioned like how like I guess you can bring like if you've done like testing or whatever for the student, like bring those and like see if especially if you've done already like multiple like assessments, like or progress assessments, see like where they began and like have they improved or stayed the same or like gotten like fallen behind or I guess like not progress but like I don't know if the word is like degress or like just go backwards kind of, or to see if like what they're using is helping or not. And then I think another important thing to like be aware of is like how they work with other students to see if like maybe pairing them up with a student or another like student in your classroom can be beneficial, or if that will just be like distracting or kind of I don't know make them upset or whatever. And then I also mentioned or thought about like to see like what prior methods and tools that like have been used for the student and like what was tried um, prior to see like what works and what doesn't work in helping the student progress in their learning. Um, what's the other question? Sorry. Oh, am I supposed to like include like what kind of like assistive technologies I think would be useful?
Yeah, name your 3 things.
Okay. I guess. Let's see. Sorry. Okay, I guess one of the ones I did think about was like text to speech or whatever, or just having like the option or having like giving the students the option to have like their like sentences or whatever, like their text read to them because they may have a hard time following along with reading what is on the page. Um, I guess another thing could be, um, I guess another, not necessarily like technology or something, but like if like the student is very fidgety or like has a problem like paying attention or whatever, you can give them like either like a little like toy or something to like have in their hands to mess with, but that's not distracting, like too distracting for them or like for other students that like see it. And like that can just be their way of like calming down or like trying to focus as much as they can, but while still having something to like do instead of like trying to do more where they can't pay attention. And then the last thing, um, I think, again, not necessarily a technology, but like, I guess if students need to, like, if they're fidgety or whatever, maybe like allow them to like take a break and stand up or walk, like, stand in the back of your classroom or whatever if they have like trouble with sitting down for long periods of time, which is not going to like be so distracting for others because they're not going to stand right in front of students. Um, they're in the back where like they're not going to block anyone's view.
Oh, very good. I like that. Um, Yeah, it was a good point for those. I mean, uh, like the last one, like it's even the simple assistive technology that like can be so impactful. As I mentioned last week when we talked about it, like the simplest, the
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Go. Okay, so the three items that I chose are, I mean, like pretty generic, but using a voice recorder, so allowing a student to have it sitting on their desk and like being able to record the lesson like however he or she wants to, so that way they're able to take it home and listen to whatever they need to again. I also said a CD player because it allows them to be able to keep it at their desk. One of my teachers that I'm like mentoring from one of my field experiences, like she uses CD players a lot and like they really enjoy it because they get to listen to the text before they like have to read it out loud. And I think that's super important, even though it's like kind of old school still like they're super like engaging and appropriate for students. And the last one, the module kind of like pointed this out, but was like the different shaped like pen or like pencil for like low mobility people to use because they might not be able to grip the small like shaped pencil. And I thought that was really interesting because like I never really thought about that. I've only heard about like the pencil grip. So I think that would be super important to have in a classroom. So yeah, those were my three things. And if I was going to the IEP meeting, I would say like I would bring to the point of like why it would be effective for the student and like why it was going to benefit them more than it was going to like distract them. I think I would come prepared with like the like most expensive item that they could be getting to like the least expensive and how it could affect them from using both. If you were to get like the most expensive one or like how they would work if they were to get like the cheaper version or like the not as high effective. The next one would be like what the child like seems to do without the assistive technology and like why they should really be having it more than they shouldn't. And kind of what Brett said is like why like how a way that you could use the assistive technology in the like classroom appropriately without like distracting the other kids or like making the other kids feel like they're not getting to use it either. I would just bring in like things of why it would be okay in the classroom. And if I was a general ed teacher, the role in the assistive technology implementation is like kind of overlapping Brett, but it's like you're the person who sees the child at all times throughout the day and you're going to know the child the best. So pretty much like your explanation of why the student should get what they get is pretty much the most reasonable because you are with them more than 90% of the day. And so you're going to have the most knowledge of why and what he does or she does in the classroom with or without the assistive technology. So pretty much just like telling everybody about the student and knowing them best.
Wow. Yeah, I really liked what you brought up with like the four considerations. The what was it? I should have written it down because I literally just forgot it. It was the one before the one that I said about the other kids. It was about
Oh, like what they seem to do without it. That one.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Like how like I didn't even think of that really. It's like that's kind of the basics. Like, are they effective without it? And if they're not, then like definitely they need it, right?
Right.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Laramie, I guess you're up with yours.
Okay, so what was the first question? That was
The three types of assistive technology. I mean, not three types. Three examples of like assistive technology that you found that could be used in the classroom.
okay. So I also did the pencil grips because that's super basic. And another one that I found was raised lined paper. I was, I think, in the IRS module to help like kids like stay on track when they're writing, so they can like feel it while they're writing, and then like their pen will also hit it, so they're not like all over the page if they can't like keep a straight line. And then planners, just to help like students organize themselves, I thought was a great tool. It's super basic. I mean, all through elementary school, my teachers always gave me a planner, like as a class, we always got one, which also had other tools within the planner to help like use classrooms.
I thought that was
kind of cool. Yeah. And then the next one was the information that I would gather would be the performance within the classroom in the past years. So I wanted to be able to like keep track of how they've been doing to see what else they need implemented. And then I would also look at how they have improved in those past years or within the past short amount of time, or lack of improvements. Like say they have a new assistive technology and they haven't been improving, I would want to know that going into a meeting and kind of try to pinpoint why it's not working. I want to know the tools that have been used within the classroom that aren't noted as assistive technology yet, but could possibly be utilized in future years for other teachers with that student. And then I also wrote down like what they are excelling in, and kind of how you said how to utilize those strengths to make their weaknesses stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And then so yeah, pretty much the general education classroom, you have your eyes on the student at all times. So you, again, this one overlaps with what you guys said. You know them best and you have the most advice that could be given in that IEP meeting. So you will know what that student really needs versus somebody who just comes in and out of the classroom and doesn't see the student at full capacity. So just knowing what your student has or needs.
Yeah, I like when you mentioned the tools that could be assistive technology, but like you don't even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I could, like the planners could be like, I used to get them all the time. I didn't even think of them as being assistive tech, but like it kind of is. And same thing with like they used to give us pencil grips too when I was in school. Like all students, they gave us all pencil grips to improve with our writing, which is an example of assistive tech, but like you didn't even think about it, and you're like, oh, it is assistive tech.
Right.
Yeah. I think everyone needs some sort of assistive technology, like even like the most minor.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I remember in like first grade we used to get like little like things to put on a Sunday to read, and like that's assistive technology and we didn't even know it. Like
yeah,
I think the thing that throws everyone off is the like technology word. It's like they think that it's yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very because technology, you're like, oh, it's electronic, which I think that technology isn't. I think that this class has kind of showed me that like technology isn't just electronic, but it's like something as simple as a pencil grip.
But that's like the go-to. It's like that one's the one that blows my mind. The pencil grip, honestly.
What? I've always been using this. What? Yeah.
I know.
But yeah, I think we covered all the points. I think it was a good one. Yeah.
It was a long one.
I know. Before break, that's just how it's right. It's like, but it'll be good. So I guess Maya, you paste the link and then we get it submitted tomorrow. And
yeah. Okay.
You guys, okay. I guess we'll see each other in 2 weeks because no Google Hangout for spring break.
Woo!
At least I hope. Yeah. So I hope not. Yeah. So that'll be good. So anyway, put the link and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
All right. Have a good break, y'all.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bye.